What we'll now do is we have, since this is a session on storytelling, and we believe that diversity and inclusion, if you need to appreciate what it's all about, we must hear the stories, we must hear the narratives of those who are never heard. And that's why we started this project. We started it in the Northeast because that's a part of the country that's never really represented, that's never really heard. We have various perceptions about people in the Northeast, and you see that playing out daily in terms of how it plays out in discrimination, simply because we don't understand each other, and we don't take the trouble. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not enough just to tolerate other cultures, but we actively engage with them, we embrace those, so we expand our own mind, we expand our own understandings. And that's why we need to move from here. Our scholars are from different parts of the country. They all come with very unique narratives, unique stories, and we've personally learned a lot from their stories. And I hope that some of their stories will give you a different perspective as well. And so if we can have a short session with just some of their stories before we break for lunch. So to narrate the first story, can I invite our scholar Ishwar? Ishwar, you can introduce yourself, where you are.
Respected dignitaries on the stage and off the stage, all the well-wishers of IDIA and other participants, as well as my dear scholars. A very warm good morning to all of you. In fact, good afternoon to all of you. I'm Ishwar Rao Javadi, a third-year law student at Gujarat National Law University. Was born in a very remote village of Visakhapatnam district, which is in Andhra Pradesh as of now, and later shifted to Hyderabad. I had a passion of doing law since last 17 years, which has a very great journey for me, because when I was 4 years old, when I was doing my kindergarten, lower kindergarten, I saw a lawyer coming to our village and dealing with some negotiation with the property and all. Then at that time, I had an idea that one day I should wear that black coat and become a lawyer. By the support of my parents and constant guidance, as well as support of IDIA, now I am able to achieve my long-lasting goal of becoming a lawyer, and hence I'm very grateful to our institution. And why I like IDIA is just because of the essence and our core concept, which is inclusivity. Inclusivity is very essential concept. With various examples we can understand, and I hope I could narrate one of those. I hope all of you are sitting on a chair and I'm speaking on a microphone. This entire microphone device would be a waste if it does not possess a screw which connects all these. If it does not possess a wire which connects electricity to the devices. Those are very small, but they play a major role in the function. In the same manner, when the society is excluding a particular section, it is also malfunctioning. It is something like this, that a sugar patient or a BP patient will not have the same food that the other people will be having. They'll be having food without salt, or they would be having food without sugar. But you will get the complete taste of the food only when you have sugar and salt. appropriately wherever is required. In the same manner, our society is a diseased society when we exclude some sections of the society. It is we are not able to enjoy the fullest taste of our society, being a community, being a society, or being a country. And hence, this inclusivity connected me to IDIA very well. And approximately 4 years ago, I was studying in my 11th. IDIA, in the part of their sensitization, they came. By that time, I was already chosen my career to become a lawyer, and they connected me. They trained very well for 2 years. They had did very hard task in almost coming every day and training us 3 hours a day. And even our Hyderabad chapter did an excellent job. Even during their examinations, they used to take a lot of classes for us so that we won't miss anything, and we'll be able to write our exams with our full capacity. And hence I cracked the CLAT with the Lord mercy and efforts of our Hyderabad IDIA chapter. Then my actual journey started in GNLU. Gujarat in one sense is known for some little bit accessibility because they are aware some things, but they don't have complete understanding whatever they know. That's what I felt. After being to so many villages and so many projects in Gujarat as well as a few universities, I got this understanding that they actually want to do something and they want to make the society inclusive, but their understanding is quite a bit wrong in how to achieve that. Because in our campus, when I entered first day, 24th June 2016, I saw many tiles, different tiles on the roads, which signifies where to move. It's very helpful for navigating for a visually impaired student. But they fail to understand that they also need to maintain those standards so that our sticks will never break by getting into some of the holes which are created either due to rain or due to over usage. Then we had some quite good struggle with the administration there, and with the guidance of our IDIA mentors and Shamnath sir here, we could achieve something like an accessible learning center for students with a disability on campus, which just got inaugurated early this semester in June. Hence, thank you.
So as you know, right from our first year, in fact, when we started IDIA, we assumed that we'd go year by year, we'll, start expanding the kinds of underrepresented populations, and we assumed that after 2 or 3 years, when we were slightly more stable, is when we would start going to schools with children with different abilities, visually impaired children, because we thought that would be a significant task. But I have to say that some of our students right in the first year were very keen and said, sir, we will take care of this, but we really have some schools where there are exceptional students that are visually impaired, and we started right in the first year, and we found they're a great fit for law. One, of course, because I think they come with exceptional memories. Because unlike you and I, they can't, when they read something, we can't go back to the same page. We don't have the luxury of a book. But in many cases, they were educated by their parents recording or their friends recording in cassettes, which they had to hear and retain everything at one shot. And two is, of course, unlike you and I, and we're facing an audience, and I see someone, yawning or someone getting irritated with what I say, and that immediately impacts, as Javed Saab says, the confidence, and so the speech goes up and down. Whereas I think it's when you're shut out from the audience, at least in terms of sight, you can find that they're very powerful speakers. And you saw that with Ishwar as well. And a key reason why we started IDIA as well is again a personal story involving the Copyright Act, Javed Saab, which you'll be happy to note, and a visually impaired lawyer. You see, many, many years ago, I had a very dear friend who was in law school with me. He's no more. He passed away. It turned out to be one of the most brilliant activists in the differently abled space. He was first in intellectual property law, which he found enormously boring. I don't blame him, the practice. And he just waddled by, and then he discovered his real passion was for the law and policy relating to disability, and went on to become one of the most prominent spokesperson. And he contacted me after a long time and said that, look, there's a problem with the Copyright Act. And I said, what's that? He said, well, the Copyright Act says that the moment I convert a book into a format that's accessible for the visually impaired, I technically commit a copyright infringement. I said, yes, you're right. And he said, but there's no exception to this. And I said, well, but no judge will ever restrain. He says, well, let's not bank on that too much. There are different kinds of judges, different shades of judges. Not all of them are going to appreciate the problems that are faced by the visually impaired. So we'd be happy if we can get an articulate exception in the Act. So around the same time that Javed Saab was campaigning along with Amit for a change in the law to protect the rights of artists and music composers and the others, and redressing one kind of iniquity, there was a bunch of other activists, the disability activists, who were trying to redress another kind of iniquity, which is in the Copyright Act. And so I think we came together. I drafted a small provision for them in terms of what the exception would look like. We took it to the government. We took it to several others. It was a brilliantly run campaign. I mean, the activists, normally you find that in many of these spaces, NGO spaces, there are a lot of egos, there are a lot of clashes, but Rahul Cherian, who was the key guy, the friend from law school, had this ability to bring all these contesting factions and egos together towards one common concerted aim. And we were able to push that exception through. But the interesting story in this is Rahul was differently abled locomotor-wise. So he had a disability in his leg and his lower spine, because of which he had to use a crutch. But we were really arguing for the visually impaired. And we went before a parliamentary standing committee, and both of us covered the legal aspects. And we thought we did it brilliantly. We researched, we had the UN conventions, we had the Constitution of India, and we made a powerful case before the parliamentary committee that India must legislate on this because you are internationally bound, it's the right thing to do, it's morally right, it's ethically right. And we sat down thinking we've done our job. And then there was this one lawyer who's visually impaired. Unfortunately, she's not here today, Kanchan Pamnani, but she came to one of our early events. And so she got up. She's visually impaired. And she just narrated her story of what it is to study the law, being visually impaired, all the challenges she faced, up to becoming a lawyer, and even now the challenges that she continuously faces in court, because our court system and our legal education system, and you can speak to many of our scholars, 20% of our scholars are visually impaired, the law schools just don't care, many of them. The economics professor would draw a graph there and would not explain the graph, often forgetting that the visually impaired candidate cannot see the graph. Similarly, they will give you reading material, photocopied stuff, bad photocopies, right? Where the edge of the word is missing. We can't even digitize it even if we want to and convert it. And one of the things that I'm speaking to Carl about, who's here, and Sushant Sinha, who won the award, Indian Qanun, the founder of Indian Qanun, both are going to help us with creating a platform for really digitizing all of this legal material. So for our visually impaired scholars, we don't need to face this challenge year after year at various law schools. I'm happy that our Orissa team now has an accessibility lab in their law school, for the visually impaired, with scanners and with other things. And slowly we're working with law schools, but it's a huge challenge. And Kanchan Pamnani narrated this just in a short while, unlike our long-winded presentations. And it was such a touching, moving story that she got a standing ovation from the parliament. And that swung it for us. And that's when it struck us. And this was the time IDEA was just taking shape, and we said, we can't, as lawyers, who've come some way, we can't keep advocating causes for underrepresented sections, because that's good. Legal aid is good, right? We can represent their causes and we can argue their case and feel good about ourselves. But what is more empowering is to build capacity from within. Have them argue themselves. give them the tool of the law in their own hands. Because when they advocate their cause, they can do it much more powerfully than you and I. Because they do it from the heart, they felt it, they've experienced it, and I think it's those stories that our courts need to hear, their own stories, in their words, from them. And that's been the mission of IDEA. So with that, may I invite the second scholar to narrate a story, Aditra.
Thank you, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to say that Javed sir's views on what makes a story was intriguing to say the least. He pointed out various key aspects of what makes a story, and following those guidelines, I will try to present my story about my journey as an IDIA scholar in the Javed Akhtar way to the best of my capabilities. When my parents decided to shift me from a vernacular medium school to an English medium school, they did not account for the culture shock I was about to receive. I was never a particularly brilliant or even an average student for the culture shock I was about to receive. My bad. I was never a particularly brilliant or even an average student throughout my high school phase. My communication skills were non-existent and my vocab as good as none. My relatives used to accuse me of having some potential, to which I always pleaded not guilty. Back in my old school, I used to be someone. The worst I had ever done over there was secure the 3rd rank. But the sudden shift from this vernacular medium school to the English medium school completely threw me off my game. I had absolutely no clue what my teachers were saying. My English handwriting was not legible to me, or anyone else for that matter. And since my school had a strict no other language policy, I had no clue what my classmates were saying most of the time. So soon enough, I ended up being a social outcast. Despite me giving my best effort, my results started getting worse and worse. Life became boring. I was not interested in whatever was being taught in class anymore. So I regressed back to my fiction frenzy. The library became my fortress of solitude. And the high that you get from reading a good book, it's just ineffable. Communication was never my forte, but reading I could do. I read all kinds of fictions I could get my hands on. And thanks to the horrifying, despicable standard of education in CBSE, I also managed to secure like around 70% in my 10th boards exam through rigorous faffing, even though I had studied virtually nothing. So I felt untouchable. I was like, what a feat it is. Even though my family had very little savings, my father used to earn a decent amount to get by. And when you are a teenager, you don't really care about the word as long as your parents are like not bashing your skulls against the wall and like asking you to study. Looking back, I sincerely believe that some good old thrashing would have done me some good, but oh well. So, following my deserts and my punk rock phase, I developed this cool, laid-back attitude towards life, thinking that I can get by just fine if I keep doing whatever it is that I was doing. Funny how life decides to teach you your long overdue lessons. I still remember the look on my mom's face when I got the call. Anu, my younger sister, tried to calm mom down, trying to be calm and composed as always. But even her voice quivered that day when she asked, Dada, were you able to book the cab? Bengali people, like myself, are particularly known for their laziness. They even take pride in being lazy. There was absolutely no way I was going to cab during their siesta hours. So I rushed to the nearest hospital and came back with an ambulance. Some minister's ambassador with a cherry on top would have been a better alternative in this country, but it was my best alternative. All we were informed that my dad is sick and in a hospital, and we must get there as soon as possible. Even when we stepped into the room where he was lying down so peacefully, we were unaware that he had passed away. I looked at him. rigor mortis had set in. He was already dead when we got the call, I realized. exams were around the corner, but I did not take my board exam that year. My whole life felt sort of misaligned. Everything felt slightly out of tune and blurred out in a soft bokeh in the background. I got re-registered in Standard 11 next year, but I went to school for only 3 days. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't think about anything else but my dad. For 1.5 years, I couldn't actually believe. I really legit couldn't believe that he's actually gone. So, when I was a little boy, I used to stay in Shonarpur. It's a nice, quaint place. I made a lot of friends there. There was this one particular neighborhood dada. There was this one particular neighborhood dada who would always help me with my studies. He was a Ramakrishna Mission student, and my mom had always encouraged me to be like him. The last time I met him, he had just cleared the medical exam, but then opted for law. So one day, out of the blue, I don't even know how he got to know about it, I get a call from this guy, and the voice on the other end says, "Oritro, this is Arnab Arnab Roy." So yeah, I completed my graduation from NUJS, and now I'm working with this organization called IDIA. It stands for blah, blah, blah. Funny how life as it seems is not without a sense of humor either. That one phone call about my dad's death, which changed my life earlier, and here I was on another phone call that was about to change my life again. I did not have to look back after I took my IN80 test and joined IDIA. And when I was an IDIA trainee, my mentors, goddamn, my mentors who trained me, and Trinadi, Arnabda, Sharmin ma'am, Swaraj sir, and of course Shamnath sir, spent more time worrying about me than I spent for myself in my entire life. They are the reason I'm being able to write this piece in this alien language. Like, honestly, I couldn't understand a single word of English before this. When someone spoke to me in English, I couldn't understand absolutely anything. They are the ones who trained me, and now I can at least I can express my views, if not anything else. From sponsoring my NIOS Pune boards exam to my CLAD coaching centers, from taking me to counselors when I was feeling down, to reassuring me on the day of my CLAD exam when I was feeling nervous and scared, but most importantly, believing in me when even I did not believe in myself. IDIA has done it all for me. Javed sir also was talking about the difference between faith and stupidity. And I wondered, in fact, to this day I wonder whether it was IDIA's faith or stupidity to believe in me. Well, it does not matter. You know why? Because that is what the IDIA folks do. They believe in people. They give people hope when they have none. They acknowledge that the country that we live in has a lot of muffled voices from the marginalized communities. And by providing those people access to a formal legal education, they let those voices be heard. They make Marx's most utopian theories seem to be a plausible reality. What they do inspires you to devote your life for the welfare of the society. Currently, I'm pursuing my BLLB course at WBNUJS Kolkata. And it's only the people behind the curtain who know what fresh hell they had to go through to get me here. To all of them, I express my eternal gratitude. I did not cry the day my father died. I do not have the time or the luxury to shed tears. Maybe one day, when my sister is married, when my mom has a lifelong dream fulfilled and has a big ranch where she grows her own fresh vegetables, when I pay off all my father's debts, when I finally marry the woman I have always loved, when I ensure that my children wouldn't have to face what I did when my father passed away, when I'm done with all my responsibilities, that day, that is the day I will cry my heart out till my eyes become red and my heart beats blue. Thank you.
Thank you, Aritra, for a very heartfelt account. We'll move to Rinju, Rinju, and then maybe after that we can have Lakesh.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rinju Kumari. I'm originally from Dibrugarh, Assam. I am from a small tea garden named Bihating Tea State in Dibrugarh. So I belong to a tea tribes. I belong to a tea tribe in Assam. And most of you will know that the tea tribes are one of the backward tribes in Assam, where the people are like socially, economically, and educationally backward. Like if anyone visits our tea garden, they can count in our hands, in the fingers, like how many people are educated. The earnings of the people in the gardens are very low. They can't afford to go to school after class 8 because till class 8 this free education is provided in Assam. After that, the cost has to be bared by the family. So after seeing the situation in my garden, I thought, why we are so back? Yeah, I can become a lawyer so that I can bring a change in my community. But as we know, the law, studying law is a bit a costly purpose. So it was in my mind, but I could not put it up in front of my parents because I have 3 siblings. I have to think about everyone. But one day, a miracle happened, and IDIA came to sensitize in my school in Dibrugarh. After that, they told me, they explained us about the career in law. I gave the test, they selected me, and they called me to Kolkata for the entrance preparation. In 2013, after completing my boards, I came to Kolkata. The IDIA team enrolled me in the CLET coaching center. The mentors personally guided me so that I can crack the entrances. But unfortunately, I could not crack CLET and IELTS. But then also they did not lose the hope on me and said, Rinju, it's okay. If you can't get through CLET and IELTS, it's not the end. You sit for the exams in the Calcutta University. So after my failures in both the exams, I sat in my CU entrance and I cleared it and got a seat in South Calcutta Law College. My 5-year in law school has been great a journey with IDIA because they have trained us like very good in every space, starting from having speaking in good English, doing internships, how to interact with the problems with the society. We go help the solving the problems of the nearby peoples. We always engage ourselves in these works. So my 5 years has been a great thing with IDIA. It's like they have trained me much that when I'm going for the interviews also they have been mentoring continuously that I can be well prepared and can crack this interview. And fortunately, before graduating from law school, I went to an interview in a litigation law firm in Kolkata, Chakraborty and Associate, and it was my first interview and I cracked it, and now I'm working with them. And before coming to the IDIA event on 26 November, I also got my enrollment letter as an advocate under the West Bengal Bar Council. So I want to express my gratitude towards the entire IDIA family for standing as a backbone towards the entire 5 years so that I can pursue my dreams which was lurking in my eyes, and now I proudly say that I'm an IDIA scholar and advocate Rinju Kumari. And I promise to contribute something towards my community which helped me to pursue this profession. Thank you everyone. I want that everyone supports us for more much upcoming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinju. As I mentioned yesterday, I think we had the wrong model initially, and the model that we had initially was that we were benefactors in some way and they were beneficiaries and we are supposed to teach them. But I think over the years, they've really taught us more than we can ever hope, and they've given us much more than we can ever hope to give them. Aritra, I think, stands for a level of perseverance that I haven't seen. I mean, he's been hit very hard, as you saw, with various personal circumstances, but has come out of it, has had some very harsh experiences, but has managed to stay on top of things. It's a resilience that I find that we lack in many of the lawyers coming on today, and we're hoping that as time goes by, we will produce a set of people that can really change the shape of the legal profession and others, because these resilience is something you can't be taught. Really, you have to have life experiences, and I think most of these scholars really bring that on the table. It's what Nicholas Nassim Taleb, who's again a very controversial writer, like you, Javed Saab, very controversial on Twitter too, but says the truth. And because he speaks the truth, he gets a lot of flack on. But Taleb came up with this concept called anti-fragility, and he's got an entire book on it, saying that when things are fragile, they normally break. But sometimes when things are fragile and you hit them, they don't break, but they become stronger. And he calls that the anti-fragile property. And as I read the book and I read this concept, I said, my God, most of our scholars here really exemplify that in more ways than one. So I don't thank us. We have much more to thank you. Seriously. I mean, anytime I'm stressed, I'm tense, Rinju Kumari is always the best balm. She's always smiling, full of spirit, full of ebullience. I don't know if you saw her dance yesterday. She had just prepared half an hour for it, but a brilliant dance performance, giving herself to it. She's just, what we lack in the legal profession, we're too prepared now, we're too methodical, we're too boring. Rinju is just spontaneous. And spontaneity is something that I learn from her every day. She's just such a natural act, and I want to spend more time with her because you imbibe some of those values, and that's something again the classroom can't teach you. How do you be spontaneous? How do you maintain the innocence of a child? Because that's what the world needs more of. And those are some of the things that we get. So please don't keep thanking us. We have to thank you. Right? It's going to be a mutual symbiotic relationship. May I now invite Lakesh to speak. Lakesh is at NUJS, and Lakesh will narrate his story. Lakesh.
A very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Lakesh. Pursuing BA plus LLB in NUJS Kolkata. I belong from Bara, a small district nearby Kota, Rajasthan. I belong from the area there. People can't think about their dream. I mean, we can say that people doesn't have right to dream because poverty is major thing. I mean, कहते हैं कि पुलिस का पीटना सब कुछ, गरीबी सब कुछ बड़ी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन सपनों का मर जाना एक बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. इसका मतलब कि हमारे जहाँ पर जो गांव में लोग हैं वो चाहते हैं कि पावर्टी से ओवरकम करें, और आई मीन वो सपने नहीं सोच सकते क्योंकि पावर्टी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. कल्चरल ऐसा है कि वो डायनामिक थॉट्स नहीं प्रोसेस कर सकते हैं क्योंकि माता पिता की कंडीशन और फसल भी अच्छी नहीं होती है, तो इस कारण से. और दे डोंट गो स्टडी फॉर आउट ऑफ माई सिटी एंड विलेज. सो और उसके बाद में मैं जोधपुर में पढ़ने गया था, तो जहाँ पर मैंने पढ़ाई की उसके बाद में तो उसके बाद में IDIA से IDIA से मैं मिला था इन 2015 में, जिस समय मैं ब्लाइंड स्कूल में पढ़ता था. तो वहाँ पर NLU जोधपुर से कुछ स्टूडेंट्स आए थे, उन्होंने मेरा टेस्ट लिया था. उसके बाद में उन्होंने मुझे सिलेक्ट कर लिया. तो उसके बाद में आई गोट एडमिशन इन NUJS. So I met with very bright people and volunteers like Arnab sir and Trina ma'am and other people. So I got various. उसके बाद में अब मैं सोच सकता हूँ, I mean मैं ड्रीम देख सकता हूँ कि हाँ, कि मैं एक साइबर सिक्योरिटी से रिलेटेड लॉ में काम कर सकता हूँ. I mean I will be a good lawyer. और मैं ये भी सोच सकता हूँ कि हाँ, अब IDIA वॉलंटियर्स ने मुझे इतनी इंग्लिश या फिर इतनी एबिलिटीज़ दे दी हैं, जिसके कारण से मैं ये भी सोच सकता हूँ कि हाँ, मैं एक साइबर एक्सपर्ट और बेसिक एथिकल हैकर भी बन सकता हूँ. ये भी मैं सपना देख सकता हूँ. सो एक्चुअली मेरा एक हमेशा से कम्युनिकेशन इशू रहा था, तो जो भी परेशानी होती थी मुझे बताने में बहुत परेशानी होती थी. तब भी IDIA पीपल ने बहुत हेल्प की तो इसमें बाहर निकलने के लिए. तो एक्चुअली अब सब कुछ ठीक है. पिछले ही साल 2015 में मेरा एक किडनी सर्जरी हुआ था. I mean मैं ऐसे एरिया से आया था जहाँ पर हेल्थ का कोई ध्यान नहीं दिया जाता. अगर बचपन में ही चाइल्डहुड में हेल्थ का ध्यान होता तो शायद सर्जरी की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती, क्योंकि बचपन में किडनी का चेकअप कराने के बाद में कुछ मेडिसिन से तो ठीक हो जाता. तो हमने सर्जरी की. एक्चुअली माई पेरेंट्स डजंट हैव एजुकेशन, सो IDIA के वेस्ट बंगाल चैप्टर ने मेरी बहुत हेल्प की. अर्नब सर ने लाइक पेरेंट्स जैसे काम किया. वो हमेशा हॉस्पिटल जाते थे मेरे साथ, और वो जब मैं हॉस्पिटल में रहता था हमेशा मिलने आते थे, और मेरे पेरेंट्स को भी साथ में लाते थे, क्योंकि वो यहाँ पर कोलकाता में तो एजुकेशन नहीं होने के कारण सर्वाइव नहीं कर सकते थे. और IDIA चैप्टर्स के स्टूडेंट ने मुझे, क्योंकि इंग्लिश नहीं आती थी स्टार्टिंग में, तो कोर्स समझ में नहीं आता था, तो दे टॉट मी इन हिंदी. तो आई रियली पास, क्योंकि मैंने अभी सर्जरी के कारण से मैं कुछ एग्ज़ाम नहीं दे पाया था. तो मैंने 6 दिन के अंदर 5 एग्ज़ाम दिए, जिनमें से आई गोट अ गुड स्कोर बिकॉज IDIA टीम टॉट मी. तो अब सब कुछ ठीक है. I can say that I will be a bright student. Thank you.
I have to tell you that, I mean, the reason that it makes it, I mean, worthwhile for a lot of us is exactly this, what you see here. And some of the people that work at IDIA, I mean, it's a constant inspiration. Arnab, Svetlana, many of the others who put together this conference. When Lakesh was going into surgery in Calcutta, Arnab was sending 10 to 20 messages. He was super nervous, super tense. And I said, look, even a parent will not be this tense. I mean, he was going mad. And I said, Arnab, stop messaging me. He said, no, Lakesh, we've just taken him, minute by minute account, and you can make out he's really, really nervous about the surgery. And I said, look, you need to relax. Don't be nervous. Things will happen okay. But that's the kind of care and commitment. And we're just blessed to have people like that within the organization and for the scholars. And I always tell people, people ask me, I said, well, we falter a lot of times. We're not as professional as we should be because we don't have enough hands on the deck. And we always struggle between running an organization, making sure it's not too bureaucratic, but keeping the student passion alive, keeping the spontaneity alive. So it's a mix between being fairly zen about things and at the same time documenting things and institutionally being rigorous so that our funders and our donors and others that we're accountable for know that we're running a decent show, which is all above board, and we have the numbers in place and all that. And it's a constant balance. But I think what makes the beauty of this movement and all the people working is really the feeling and the spirit that you see that comes from most of them that we can't possibly put into a report or a document and give a potential fund. I mean, that is something you need to see for yourself. So really, thank you to all of them for doing such a wonderful. Lakesh, I have to tell you, my first experience with him, we were in a room and he wasn't opening up because we were all discussing in English. And he had a huge problem communicating. And I was doing a session with them on creative thinking. And I said, well, the future is policy lawyering. You can't just be straight-jacketed lawyers reading and understanding statute and case law. You have to think policy because almost every legal norm today, including the norms in courts, is being shaped by policy. Before Justice Chandrachud, you're not going to get too far just running him the straight-jacketed law or the legal doctrinal argument. You have to back it up with solid policy arguments, and those are going to come from outside the law, right? Issues of identity, It has to come from sociology and political science and various other things that you have to marshal before a court. And so we were trying to get our scholars to think about how they would come up with policy responses. So if the issue is that not enough girl children are being educated, what incentives would you offer to put more girls in school and to keep them in school? And I tell you, students were discussing, we were getting some answers from some of the scholars, and then I told Lakesh, feel free to speak in Hindi. And he came up with some of the most out-of-the-box solutions. And I said, the boy is a gem, he can think. But unfortunately, not in English at this stage. So let's trade him up for English, but have him think in his own local language, and that's a big barrier for us. And that's something that we're working very hard at, which is, how do we break this language barrier? Because to get the best of these minds into the mainstream legal framework, we also have to bust this particular elitist English barrier. But how best do we do it in a country that has some serious problems because we have 23 different languages? The law entrance exam is messed up as it is in English. We don't want them to take it to 23 languages and make a butchery of it. And Rinju and the others, please don't ever feel bad that you never made it to a law school, a national law school, because of CLAT, because CLAT has become a bloody lottery. You toss a coin, you get in, falls on the wrong side, you don't get in, a bit like Cholet. I mean, no, actually not like Cholet, because both sides are the same, as we realized with the coin. But we decided, and our first focus was on the national law schools initially, because we said our aim is to get under-resourced populations into the elite law school so that they experience the power corridors that the elite lawyers experience, and they become part of it. And that was our mission. Then we realized this exam is a bloody joke. Our scholars, and you can see some of them, and we have to identify who's going to be a great fit for law and great fit. And I can tell you that we're constantly revising it. We've not got it right, because even aptitude can be taught. There is nothing called legal aptitude in the raw. Everything is a format. Everything can be taught. You have some of the best CLAT trainers here, and Rajneesh and the others will tell you that they can prepare you for this exam. Does it test you for raw aptitude, raw intelligence? Nobody knows, except that, of course, CLAT now has made a mockery of various things. The reason we filed a petition in the Supreme Court is because they ask a series of questions in the supposed legal aptitude section, and the legal aptitude section has questions like, which case held for the first time that you could record evidence through video conferences? I mean, we took these questions to Venugopal when we had to file and to some other lawyers, and we said, these are legal reasoning questions that are being asked of class 12 students to test for their aptitude of law. You're a leading lawyer. These are 10 questions. If you get 5 out of 10, you're off the hook. But if you get less than 5, please take this case pro bono for us, which we're filing the case. Many of these lawyers got 2 out of 10. Then you ask a question saying, CA 125 is the marker, is a protein that's a biomarker for which kind of cancer? This is supposed to test your ability for how well you'll perform in law school and later as a lawyer, that you know of this particular protein that serves as a biomarker for a certain kind of cancer. The reason is simple. They've copied it from some other paper that's been around. And they've copied, in fact, we showed before the court, Supreme Court, that they've copied so well that they also copy the errors from the other papers. This is how we test for lawyers. So don't be too, So we decided we're not going to limit ourselves to the national law schools and to this little crappy filter called CLAT, C for crap and C for CLAT, because it's not working. And we really need to change the system. And what we also need to do is expand outside this network and go to the other law schools, so long as we have good students. And we're constantly interrogating, how do we identify students? And sometimes I just tell the volunteers that go in there, our tests are fine, but beyond that, just check for fire in the belly. Do they have an attitude? Do they have the ability to persevere? Are they resilient? Do they have fire in their bellies? So long as they tick off those boxes, even if they score less, because we found, like I told you with Lakesh, in English you ask him a question, he's not going to answer very well. Put him in his local language where he thinks, and he'll come up with the most creative solutions. And we find that with our tests. You give them a test in English on logical reasoning and others, they won't score too well. Give them in the vernacular, and give them in a format that they're familiar with, they perform really well. So when we measure merit, we are measuring merit, a kind of merit that's predominantly our framework for merit that we are comfortable with, we're used to. But if we are serious about diversity and inclusion, we need to flip around our framework of merit and make it more inclusive to a measure of merit that's more comfortable for them. You can't ask in a CLAT question a question where the fact pattern rests on golf and their knowledge of golf, because golf is a rich man's game. right? You can't ask about a TV show that they would have never watched. And these are the questions we ask. We never ask questions about Indian agriculture. Why? Because that would prejudice the urban student, because they know nothing about Indian agriculture. And this is how we measure merit in this country today, unfortunately. But we'll hopefully, we'll change the system, and we'll hopefully, our scholars will be our brand ambassadors for this movement to change the system as time goes by. So with that, thank you very much. We have to thank Javed Saab for his fantastic keynote, all our scholars for their wonderful moving stories, and we have a small token of appreciation, Javed Saab, for you. Rinju Kumari is going to present it to you, our scholar. So thank you very much for being patient. We're running a little delayed on time, so if I can request you to please have a quick half an hour lunch break, and then we come back here at 2:45 to start the next session. Thank you very much.